can only get that on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7. It's 8 minutes after 9. 9 minutes after 8, sorry. Beg your pardon. I'm in a hurry. 9 minutes after 8 here on 3FM Sunrise. We will talk to our Central Regional Correspondent, Thomas Khan. But first, hear what the GES PRO had to say regarding the ongoing conversations around Adisco College, where two colleagues were seen in a video. And then one of the students smashed the head of the other on a bunk bed, metallic bunk bed. Listen.
Anything that happens in the school, we also have administrative rules. So, in as much as the police, the agencies are taking over, they can continue with whatever they are doing. And what we also mentioned or said in the meeting is that whatever interrogation or meet, because these are young ones, definitely they'll be accompanied by the lawyer, the Central Regional Lawyer in Education. And then we've also asked that a teacher or an adult should accompany them to the police station. But it doesn't mean that we are leaving everything in the hands of the police. Administratively, we are also doing our part, or will continue to do our part, and then report to the ministry by Thursday, as we have asked us to do.
Thomas Khan, good morning. How are you doing?
Hi, good morning, Johnny. I'm doing well.
Where are you now, and what can you report?
Well, Johnny, since this incident happened, we've been keeping our eyes and ears on the ground here at Adisco College. And currently, this conversation is still ongoing among the student population, and then as well as those who live in the community, and then Cape Coast at large. This has come at a time that conversation about discipline in a secondary school is a matter that most of the radio stations here in Cape Coast are discussing. And people are blaming all that we saw in the video to many factors, including the lack of discipline in the various secondary schools now. People, especially the elderly people, are discussing and talking about how they were being dealt with in their time when they went wrong in the secondary school. But now the situation or the narrative is different now. And they think that these are the little things that is contributing to some of these, what they describe, indiscipline among students.
Now, in any case, what would you say is the mood of the students? This is a big school in the Central Region. I know you attended one of the big schools as well, Kwaboche or Infantsville.
Yes.
Well, what is the mood in Adisco College now?
Well, Johnny, like I did indicate, it's still a conversation that is going on among the students' body. When you get to the Adisco campus now, everything is looks like normal. Students are going about their business or their studies, and then everything that they have to do, everything here is very calm. And what now they are discussing is what is going to be the final verdict for their colleagues, especially the two, the victim and the one who committed that crime. And again, the housemaster who was also brought, who is being brought into the whole matter. So it's something that the students, generally, some of them are really kind of worried about it, and they are really discussing it. And when this video also matter came into the public, we've seen and heard some of the parents also checking up on their wards to find out how they are doing. And it's something that the student body are also trying to have a way to shape up so that they are not, psychologically down. So it's something that they are really discussing this morning.
The psychosocial support that was promised by the GES, did you see it, or do you see it at play presently in the schools?
Yes. From now, the authorities here are tight-lipped, but we understand that the school itself has a counseling unit, so they think that also going to be used very well. And then again, we've had information that the GES is going to get some counselors to come to the school and all of that. So we are monitoring to know how that is going to play out.
Now, the town folks are worried. The school authorities are worried. Yeah. Do we know if there's going to be a long-term conversation, particularly from the front of the Old Boys Association? What have you heard?
Yes, Johnny, from what the town folks are talking about, they want some kind of measures to be put in place to curb these things. But Adisco is a single-sex school, it's a boys' school, and it's kind of a school that has all the bragging rights and all as far as certain things are concerned. And mind you, the Attorney General himself, who has issued a statement that the corporates be arraigned before a court, is an old boy of infancy.
That's correct. That's correct.
So there's a general conversation that there could be some pressure from the Santa Clausian fraternity for the Attorney General to crack the whip. So that is why yesterday, if you remember, there was a statement that the AG has advised that the corporates be arraigned before a court. So that tells you that this is a conversation that is going beyond just the school authorities, that the old boys have really taken a swipe at it, and they want the matter dealt to the latter.
In wrapping up our conversation, Thomas, I want us to look at the forward march. Some union leaders, especially NAGRAT and NAT, have raised conversations about and concerns about discipline in the schools. The fact that the children can now not even be caned because it is a policy from the regulator, GES. How does that sound to the town folks, the parents, and all of that in terms of trying to maintain discipline among the students?
Yes, I think that, like I indicated, this is a conversation that has been going on. In fact, from yesterday, when we go to the campus, almost everybody who stepped here, even within the media, among the media people, everybody was talking about the same thing. Then also linking the lack of discipline that has gone down in the various schools because of restrictions and then directives by GES or the ministry that there are certain things that teachers cannot do. And they feel that these are the little things that is contributing to this. And then it's about time GES and the Ministry of Education reviews some of these restrictions or directives, and then, give some power to teachers and then authorities of the school to take some charge. And that can also correct some of these mistakes.
Thomas Kana, thank you very much indeed for your time. We're grateful.
Johnny, I'm grateful.
And Thomas Khan is our Central Regional Correspondent there, bringing us up to speed. He's presently at the Adisco College. Well, let's hear some of the union leaders. We'll connect with the Conference of Heads of second cycle schools, but let's hear the union leaders.
We have now what we have in our schools because there seems to be a vacuum when it comes to ensuring that students are disciplined. Okay? As we speak, because you cannot repeat students, I'm calling for empowering school management and authorities to put in place disciplinary measures to deter some of these errant behaviors.
And for me, GES should see what they can do for that particular boy. I think that where we are now, we've all contributed to it, because whenever teachers take action against students, they always receive condemnation. That is why we are here. And I think last week, the GES came out with a draft. We have made some contributions into it, and we are hoping that sooner or later, the code for students will soon be published.
We will urge parents to also talk to their walls, that you go to school to go and learn. You don't go to school to go and beat somebody's what.
some union leaders there. Reverend Father Stephen Owusu-Setre is the president of CHAS, that's the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools, joins us on the phone line now. Thank you, Reverend Father. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. And
Great.
peace be with you.
And peace be with you as well. You heard the union leaders on discipline in the schools. Where does CHAS stand on that matter?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. Greetings to your listeners and viewers. For us, we see this to be very unfortunate, and we condemn it to the highest order. And this shouldn't happen to any student, shouldn't happen to any school for that matter. So for CHAS, we are so sad, and we really are not happy about what happened at Adisco College, and we condemn it in all certain terms.
The breakdown of discipline, which many have attributed to the abolishment of corporal punishment, for example, is it a strong point that has been made, or perhaps the union leaders are not looking at things from the perspective of CHAS?
Yeah, I listened to my brother Kabonu and the others. They are not really saying that it is because they took away corporal punishment. If you listen to him very well, I heard him say that right now, what we have as a code of conduct for students, whenever we apply it, I know the media and parents, everybody will come after us, because you people are saying that it's obsolete, it's archaic and all that. But we have not been given, or the old one has not been replaced. Okay, I had a conversation with the DG, the Director General, last week. He promised to make sure the new one is made available to us very soon. And I'm sure maybe by next week we should have the new code of conduct for students. My brother, whatever is happening for us is just a reflection of what is happening in society. Because these students also they come from homes.
That's right.
You see, I also see what is happening in threefold. Either this boy is having some kind of psychological issues, or the boy is a troubled child, or maybe he's under the influence of something. Because in the dormitory, and we all attended boarding schools, and that is why when we meet your brother, your sister, we are all friends from the north to the south, from east and west, Ghanaians. Because of the boarding schools, we are all friends. But it would be difficult to see what happened in that dormitory, as I saw it in the video. I mean, and believe it, but it happened. And no school in this country will train students to behave that way. I hope you agree with me.
I get you.
No school in this country would train students to behave that way. So it is not the making of the school. It is like maybe he thinks that he can do something of that sort and get away with it. Now, the school has rules and regulations. Yesterday I was listening to what people were saying, and in one conversation, one of the panelists said that, why should the school sack them? And we have other human rights activists saying the school should not dismiss and all that. My brother, the schools also have rules and regulations. When students come to school, we give it to them. They go through orientation. We read the rules and regulations from A to Z to them, for them, and then they sign to it. If you go against it, according to whatever is stipulated, black and white, this and that should happen. And when it happens and we apply the rules, the Ghanaian system, you see the headmaster being bashed left, center, right, as if he's the most wicked person in the whole wide world. And then you see a parent on radio insulting, and you see family members coming to the school, attacking teachers, attacking school. My brother, if we don't sit down around the table and discuss this issue comprehensively, and we think that we can resolve it and then get away with it, we cannot do it. But we as CHAS members will do what we are supposed to do by using the school rules and regulations. And when we apply the rules, I also want to suggest that you in the media should also have copies of the rules and regulations.
Right.
So that if a student comes to you that, hey, my boy has been debordinized or dismissed, then you ask for the offense, you open that to the parent, and then you tell the parent that, hey, but when you went to that school, these rules were given to you. But what we have observed is that if at times our brothers and sisters in the media will not even, check. They will even vilify before they call you to ask you what is happening.
So now,
my brother,
the media is to blame. The media is
no,
to blame.
I'm not blaming the media. I'm saying that you should get topics of the rules and regulations in the school, so that if somebody runs to you complaining, you even resolve the issue there before the headmaster is even called. I hope you understand where I'm coming from.
How do you propose that this trend is reversed? The trend that we saw in the video, and this was captured in the video on tape, and we are lucky to have had that. But the many instances, yesterday somebody told me about something at Kimbu, somebody told me about something at Hotcast, somebody told me about something in another school, which looks like a trend. How do we reverse the trend?
My brother, these things have been there since time immemorial. I hope you are a student, but just that they keep on escalating.
Right.
Wherever you go, you have deviance. I hope you understand. You have deviance. Right. Some people may try to go against the rules and regulations in school, but to this extent, it's horrible. We have to apply the rules and regulations in school strictly. For example, I see this to be bullying in the highest order. All right, so we have rules in the school that will treat this, in a very sharp manner. This one calls for dismissal instantly, and then the person reported to the police. So I am advising my brothers and sisters in the heads that something of this sort quickly report to the police, and then use the school's internal system to deal with it. Because you may not know who is coming in with this kind of behavior. You may not know, and it may happen at your blind side when you are maybe in your office and two students are fighting in dormitory. You will not be there. But we have to put our students through counseling. We should let them know the rules and regulations constantly and remind them and make sure that those who are troubled are sent to a counseling unit and help them to also come out of their troubles. And even if you send them for counseling and they don't open up, you wouldn't know whether they have issues in their heart, in their mind. You wouldn't know. So we may have to deal with this strictly when they come up.
Also, the counseling units in the schools, I want to understand how it is structured. Is it a case where teachers are giving that additional role, or the GES gives you a stand-alone trained counselor to man a counseling unit properly so-called in every single school? Which is the structure?
The latter is the case, that you have a counselor who is posted to the school, not a teacher, but a counselor, because, for example, you have a school of 4,000 students. The counselor may bring in some teaching staff members to also assist, especially when they are free. Okay, the counselor will maybe call in one or two teachers and ask them to help him or her deal with certain situations. But we have counselors in the schools that are not teachers.
And they are functional?
Of course, if they function.
So what has been the
impact? I've not taken my time to do a research on all the schools to see how their county departments are working. So with this, we are having a meeting. We are going to deal with this and see how, the defects in the county department, and then take steps to resolve it. If and only if we find in any school that is finding it difficult to operate the county department, we may have to go in and then bring in management to resolve those issues for us.
I was going to ask you how effective these counseling sessions are, because if, for example, you have a school population of 4,000 and the international standards does not agree to one counselor to 4,000 students, then obviously it will not be effective to have a counseling unit of that nature to be able to shape the minds of the boys and girls in the schools. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, that's what we have to deal with now. But that's why I told you that You see, in a school, you, the leader, you have to manage whatever you have, the resources that you have to manage it. That is why I told you that in a school with higher population, with maybe one counselor or two, they may try to rope in some well-renowned teachers who are also parents and the rest to come in to help them. Not to help them to take over their job, but to also help them in certain ways to shape the boys and girls. That's what we do. But we need to, moving forward, we need to look at the population and bring in more counseling and personnel to take care of our students.
What form does this counseling take? Does it begin right when they enter the school, or do the counselors sit and wait for an incident of this nature to happen before they swing into motion?
No, it doesn't. You see, the counseling department organize seminars and all that symposium for the students. Okay, and then after the talk shows and all that, if students have issues, they go to the counseling department to get them resolved. Again, in the classroom, when teachers also detect any anomalies in the behaviors of students, they also refer them to the counseling department. And if the disciplinary committee also sits, and then they also have issue with some students, after the sanctions, students are also referred to the counseling department for help. So the counselors themselves take the initiative to get to the students, and we also help them by referring troubled students and those who have issues to the counseling department. That's how it works. So it's not like you sit down and then you wait for something to happen before you work on students who have issues. No. As many as the time that you see students who have issues, you refer them to the counseling department. Well, if a student maybe goes to town the night and the student is sanctioned, after that, you send the person to the counseling department for him or her to be helped to reform.
Reverend, if that be the case, what we saw in the video from Adisco College, it does appear that the gentleman in question who was strangling his colleague student would have been on this path for some time, because even the people who were standing around found it uncomfortable to move to him to restrain him from strangling a fellow student. And then even when he had hurt the other boy in the video, they only said that, well, he had done the wrong thing, but nobody could confront him. It gives me an indication as an outsider from where I sit, having analyzed the video, that perhaps this man is strong enough and he has done this over time. Could the counselors have missed it?
Yeah, you may be right, but that might not also be the case. You see, in a school of maybe a school like Adisco, and you have students of this nature among them, if you don't notice and nobody reports, you cannot just go and bring somebody and say that, hey, you are this, so come for help and all that. But the person also should take advantage of the general advice and the seminars that maybe the counseling department also organize for them. You see, that's why I said somebody could come to school for 3 years. That person may not show anything untoward. Getting to that part of his school, maybe 2 months, 1 month to WASI, the final examination, the person may show so many kind of internal attitude that will even shock you. All right. So I may not be able to tell you whether or not that boy is like that or was like that, and it happened at the blind side of the counselor. As a matter of fact, we cannot say that. It could be that he was like that and he didn't cause any mayhem like this for authorities to spot him, and then it came out at that time. See, there are some students who they're always quiet. Okay, they don't talk, but when they're angry, they may act in a very dangerous way that will even shock you.
Okay.
So we cannot say that he's like that or he was not like that.
I see.
Maybe his history in the school may determine whether he has been doing that to students or not.
Reverend, let me ask you this. What does Charles think of the suspension of the housemaster, suggesting that he did not perform his role well, given the explanation you have just tabled that, well, the housemaster may not know until a matter is reported, or the counselor may not know until a matter is reported. The school definitely wrote and said that he has failed in the role as housemaster. What does Charles have to say about that?
Yeah, I just have to answer this question. I just have to, for example, in my school, Pukwa School, something happened in one of the houses. I have a housemaster there. I have a deputy housemaster there. They are supposed to go to the house and check. If somebody is injured or somebody has wound, as housemaster, you should find out what happened to him. I hope you understand where I'm coming from.
Right.
And I'm told the thing also happened on the 30th of last month or so.
About 3 weeks ago, yes.
So if as housemaster, somebody has wound and you didn't even ask, you didn't even notice it, I think that it means you
my information is that the housemaster saw it, he asked, and then the boys told him that they were playing. This is information we have from old students of Adisco College.
Anyway, I just have to also find out exactly from my colleague what really happened and what made him maybe ask the housemaster to step aside. I have to get the information very well, because at times you just have to get to the source to know why certain decisions are taken. Other than that, you may exercise in a very wrong manner. So let's get the reasons correctly before we could determine whether his sanction is good or bad.
Well, Reverend, you have to hold on for me, and let's connect with Elder Amos.
If you could allow me, because I have to also jump to another interview.
I see.
And they have been calling me since we started this interview.
Right.
So if you could allow me, please.
Great. Then maybe I'll put my last question to you. The matter of drugs, because that has also come in the conversation, drug addiction and abuse in secondary schools. How do you deal with it as Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools?
That's an issue. It's a big one indeed. You see, students who come to school, you search them, you find nothing on them. But students who also have the chance to receive visitors. So we are of the view that maybe during visiting hours, some people come in to also hand these things over to them. And then nowadays, the drug that they take, you don't even smell anything on them. Okay, they put that. You see students drinking some energy drinks and all that, and there are so many things inside, and you will not even notice that this is what they are doing, unless of course something happens, and it will be difficult for you to take your student to the hospital and test whether there's something in his blood. That one, the police has to do that. So we just have to wait and observe and see whether a student exhibit certain signs of being under the influence of a drug, and then we will interrogate the matter to see, or the person will be caught in the action or in the act before we could ascertain. Other than that, all that we could do is to talk to parents and then liaise with parents and talk to our students and bring in resource people to come and speak to our students on the dangers of these drugs. Apart from that, it's difficult for us to determine whether or not somebody is coming in with a drug or somebody is under the influence of drug, or whether the person is an addict and all that. But I tell you, my brother, these things happen at times when you come across a student who is addicted to maybe marijuana or something.
Right.
You realize that the person will have started from class 6, GHS1, GHS2, GHS3, and then they come to senior high school, and then especially those who find themselves in the boarding house, you always see them going out, because now they find themselves in an enclosed area. They can't go out, and because of that, they have to find a way of going out to get to where they can get some of these drugs and take. And then as they do that, you catch them one day, and then you find out that this is what they have been doing. So it is very difficult in a way, but we have been trying our best to stop this canker in the school.
My final question to you is about the feeding of the children in schools. It's been in the news, food shortage and the quality of food and all of that. The buffer stock food suppliers have been on a hard tussle with government. Some monies have been paid to them and all of that. But key concerns have been raised about the supply of foods, the quality of food, and the availability of food. What do you say as president of CHAS?
Yes, I must say that the supply of food to our schools have been the best. I must say, because at times many a time you get this food item and you don't get that food item. But the best situation for our students is that you should have all the 18 food items in your stores to be able to feed the students well. At times, some come, others don't come. And then when this one gets finished, then you are waiting for the other one to come, and then you have to feed your students with the one that you have in your stocks. And we have not also entered into contract with any supplier. We wait for them to bring the food items to us.
Okay.
So we are under the mercy of the suppliers. They come, they supply. They say the food items are coming. If you call and they tell you that I am maybe bringing the food to Upper West, I'm at Tamale, and I'm coming, and the food is not coming, you don't even know the supplier, you the driver who is bringing the food items.
Right.
So it has become very difficult for us to, but we have been engaging management and free SHS, and anytime we have issues, we have to call on them to send food to areas quickly. But it is difficult, I must say, that it has not been the best, and I must admit that it has not been the best. And we, the heads, we are suffering because of these. I don't know what it is. A scanty supply of food items to us.
Reverend Stephen Osu-Setra, thank you very much indeed for your time, sir.
You're welcome, sir.
He's the president of the Conference of Heads of Assisted Secondary Schools. He joined us here to talk about Adisco College and matters arising. Joining us on the other phone line, I introduced him already, but I'll do that again. Elder Amos Kevin Annan, he's the CEO of Hearts and Habits Foundation. So, good morning. How are you doing, sir?
Hi, morning, my brother. How are you?
I am greater than Accra. Good to have you.
This is interesting.
Okay. And apologies for holding you on the line for some time.
No worries. I was listening to the Reverend that you were interviewing. So that's fine.
Also, for Adisco College is in the news, not for good reason. Of course, for all the bad reasons. What can we be doing at this time which is not right, which is why we find ourselves in this situation as a country?
Oh, thank you very much for making this a subject of conversation. I hope that this conversation would be expanded beyond what has happened to a broader conversation about boys and how they are turning out. Not long ago, I was with you and your team at the Reformation Center.
That's right.
And you saw the number of boys there.
That's right.
So we have to begin to relook what we are doing with our boys. But that will be for another day. Now, back to your question. I think that from my work of over 3 decades with young people, I have come to the conclusion that good parents can have children who do not turn up as not so good.
Right.
And I've seen people who are described as dysfunctional parents raising children who turn out to be very functional for society. There is a mystery to that. Now, a school setting is set up in such a way that persons who enter the school are giving orientation, have been part of many pre-tertiary and tertiary school orientations around the country.
Right.
And if I cast my mind back to my days in Koforidua Sectec, for instance, when I went to Sectec was one of the most notorious schools in this country.
I can imagine. Sectec will shake your bones.
And I recall that I had 2 seniors who came from one home. One was called Pope, the other was called Satan.
Yeah.
So you can imagine.
Wow.
Now, in the school, a lot of the things that we are hearing of today, we witness them. But we can make a case that the sheer numbers of the young people today on the various campuses is a cause for concern. But the question is, could we do anything other than putting them in school? Imagine if they were on the street. If they are in school and they are causing such headache, when they come on the street, they'll give us nightmares. So there's a need for us, first and foremost, to look at the code of conduct in schools and how it is communicated, how it becomes part of the intrinsic considerations of persons who are on the school compound. So coming from those in the area of management, to those in administration, to those who are faculty members, to persons who are non-teaching staff, then comes to the students themselves. And in the student, you have those who are in leadership and those who are not in leadership. That is very important because that school is a community, and the community is regulated by certain codes that we all agree to share together. Now, when you move from the school, you go to the rooms that the boys live in.
Right, the dormitories.
Even how they comport themselves in the school. When I went to Form 1 in Sectec, the room I was taken to was called Jungle Town. Jungle Town. Wow. I mean, I don't want to describe what was going on in the room, but I tell you, I mean, it was where I saw how fermented kenkey can intoxicate people. You know, people go and bury kenkey for months elsewhere and then take it. You know, so the room culture. What's the room culture? When they move from the room, they go to their classrooms where they learn. In every classroom, there is a certain prevailing culture in the classroom. Beyond that, then counts your companions in the school. Each student, each learner on campus has a set of companions. These are friends you hang out with. These are peers. And you are either based on class, based on sessions, based on houses, based on maybe sports, clubs, and what have you. Now, what are the creeds that these young people subscribe to? Because there are certain groups that when you are part of, you are initiated to act in a certain way, behave in a certain way. And we know the university campuses. I mean, you know your own campus.
That's right.
You know that there are certain halls that are notorious for certain things.
Of course.
And so if a person comes from that hall and behaves that way, nobody finds it absurd. Meanwhile, in a larger society, that is an absurdity.
That is true.
So there's a need for us to help our young men and women on campuses. And I mean, we've seen videos of girls going, bonkers. We've seen boys doing erratic behavior.
Yeah.
But this particular video sends a lot of signals to us. That, I mean, you look at a boy who is holding another in a chokehold, choking him and slamming the head. I'm looking at a fight in a boxing ring. I'm looking at this kickboxing. That's what I was seeing. And you see the prevailing culture in the room. You watch the video. I've watched the video 5 times since rising this morning. You look at the response of the people who were onlookers.
Yes.
And look at the boy, how he was pumped up, as they say on the street. He was hyped by his peers. There's a certain sense of invincibility that he evoked. He showed that he was really in charge and in control of the boy. And the boy had been put into a place where he had been subdued and coming across as helpless.
That's correct.
So when you see a picture, and then we are recording it, and you hear the commentary after they saw blood coming, there were comments being made. Yeah. Now, the whole thing has changed. And look at his final response. Take your phone. Take that. He described the phone in a way that I don't want you to repeat. He described the phone and kicked it to the boy. It tells you that there is a certain mindset that is operating in the minds of these boys. And interestingly, I discovered that both of them are final year students.
That's correct.
So that tells you that there is this psychology of a final year student which is prevailing. You know, final year students.
That's right. Above the law, yes.
They are breaking tables and chairs because they know they are done with school.
Above
and
the law.
We have seen cases where people finish their last paper and they say we have to exhale. And in their state of exhalation, they do all manner of things. So we need to painstakingly look at what is happening amongst our learners on campuses and then be able to help them. And if we're going to be able to help them, I would suggest first and foremost that beyond raising them in healthy homes where positive affirmation, positive behavioral construct is promoted, we need to help them to develop soft skills.
Where would you put counseling? Because GES says we have guidance and counseling units in the schools. People have been asking to see the impact of those counseling sessions reflecting in how the boys behave, their method, their character, their composure, and all of that. You have done counseling left, right, center across the world. How are we prosecuting this counseling thing that it seems not to be working in the way that we expect it to?
Well, when people use broad brush to describe and paint counseling, I get quite disconcerted. You know why? Because a counseling session, especially for those in these pre-tertiary schools, is guidance and counseling. So they are there to guide you because they know that you are in your formative years.
That's right.
But we know that guidance comes and is subject to the person's willingness to make use of it or reject it.
Right.
And nobody can be forced. They said that you can force the mule or the donkey or the horse to the riverside, but you can't force it to drink. Think of it. Some of these boys came from home where they've been left to themselves. So they largely have learned the rule book from the street, you know. And, you know, it's the survival of the fittest. I don't know, my brother, if you have observed even how drivers in SUVs, in Range Rovers, in Hummer, in big trucks drive. When they drive next to you, they want to shove you off the street.
Yeah, they want to bully you.
We do the same thing to bikers, whether motorbike or, you know, motors itself or bicycle. So there's a certain mindset that is prevailing in our community, and we have to watch it as a people. When a person is bigger than you, they use their size to bully you. Now, so counseling comes in to augment what parents are doing. Counseling cannot take the place of parents. And everybody is a reflection of the home you come from. And the home has a responsibility to condition the person. But we know that people get to the school environment and they meet others who change them. As they rub shoulders with each other, they socialize with each other, they change them. And this is why I would encourage, I'm happy that the GS is doing a project called the Safe School Environment Project. And with the Safe School, I am hoping that we'll raise more peer counselors. Because I sit here, I can remember how my colleagues and I came together and we influenced our classmates for good. We had friends who would sneak out those days without exit. They'll go to New Drabin School, which was next door, to do all sorts of things. But we, as positive role models at the time, decided to influence them positively. So the school system must go beyond just the guidance and counseling system, which is very effective. It's very effective. But you see, if you have two guidance and counseling staff who themselves also teach in class,
right,
how much time would they have available to attend to students? So that's something we have to look at. And it means that we're going to have to overrun our budget at a certain point. So it comes with budgetary considerations as well. We can cry, but do we put our money where our mouth is? I mean, we are a nation who, tend to put cost to everything, but don't see the value of anything, as we were admonished by a former president.
Right.
So there's a need for us to begin, as we do the safe school thing, to look at each class having positive peer influences and counselors in the class, beyond reproductive health conversations. Because I see that, unfortunately, a lot of the peer counselors I see, they are almost all around reproductive health issues or right-based behavior.
Right.
But I think it's now time for us to call for peer counselors in the area of responsible conduct. Theodore Roosevelt once said, and I quote, to educate a person in mind and not in morals is to educate a menace to society. End of quote.
Okay. Now, my final question to you is the fact that both the victim and the assailant have been suspended. Bright Appeal of Child Rights International has been asking the question as to how the victim was suspended. But he's also made a strong point for the person who perpetrated the action we saw in the video, that they both need to be counseled, their rights as children need to be protected, and they need to be seen through their examination.
Well,
briefly. What do you say in closing?
Bright's view, I was reading some of commentary he made on Ada TV network, and I think that we need to pipe down sometimes on the harping of rights. You see, your rights get vitiated when you act irresponsibly. You cannot assert rights when you act irresponsibly. So there's a need for us. You see, this is what happened in the United Kingdom a few years ago when David Cameron was the Prime Minister. And he went to the UK Parliament and said to them, look, we've been teaching our young people their rights. It's now time to teach them their responsibility. I want to admonish my friend Bright. His senior brother was a very good friend of mine. I want to encourage him. They should start going to schools to teach them about responsible behavior. I have been part of the advocacy with respect to CRC document, the Children's Rights, Convention on the Rights of the Child.
Right.
I work with a Swedish organization, and for over 10 years I was involved in that advocacy and training of staff members on the CRC document because they came from different countries. But I'm also very convinced that we need to inculcate in them. You see, when you look at the African Charter, for instance, it talks about citizens' responsibility. And here in Ghana, we also have it in our constitution, the duties of a citizen. We often harp on rights and neglect the duties of the citizen.
I see.
And I want to plead with all the right-based groups to begin to review their own influences on our young people. It's for another conversation.
I hear you. Thank you.
But in the school environment, let me make some quick propositions.
Right.
One, we need to come to a place of recognizing that this kind of behavior is harmful and detrimental. Secondly, we must regulate the environment with policies and directions that are running through from the dormitory all through to the school. Thirdly, we need to create a report system and a response system. Because if you don't have a system where people who observe these things can report it and feel safe, nobody is going to report.
That's true.
And then we have to have a response system which is measured, legal, and also reformative. And finally, we must consistently resource our learners and staff when it comes to this matter. I'm very passionate about this conversation. I wish I was in the studio
I
to
can
have
imagine.
discussed this because the broader conversation really is our boys. Let's look at them.
What
again.
are we doing
Thank you,
with
my
them?
brother.
Thank you. Elder Amos Kevin Annan, as always, is the CEO of Heart and Habits Foundation, and he had to share his thoughts with us. Quite revealing, if you ask me. Few messages will come back into the studio. There's more to talk about here on Sunrise on 3FM 92.7.
Hip, 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 hooray! It's the Junction Mall